One of the core principles of being a man is to own your life, to truly have strength no matter where you're at, to be able to not be a victim, to not rely on blame, to move past that and gain strength from it. But in the phase of masculinity or different phases that we have, we're going to fall into those traps 100%, and we need to be guided out of them. Now, currently on the Austin Men's Development Board, there's a lot of talk about narcissist exes or the American court system being screwed, or even people get into American women and so on, and all these different things. Now, furthermore, there's other discussions where we talk about, male problems and males being drug addicts, males having more of a higher suicide rate or different problems that happen. And these are all things of reality that happen all the time with men. We have the stats to prove them. We have the information to prove them. But what do we do with that? And sadly, and one of the things that I want to guide you out of, coming from a lot of experience, is how we evolve out of them. I just want to start this off before we really get into the meat of this video and saying that this is what I do. I've worked with men for 15 years on this, on getting them out of some of the deepest levels of trauma. I currently work with a guy who has hired Tony Robbins in a private capacity, paid millions of dollars, and I've worked with him for 3 years and gotten way better. In fact, Tony got 0 results with him. Now, Tony Robbins, great guy. I'm sure he does some great stuff. It's awesome. But when it comes to deep level trauma with heavy, heavy psychological issues, this is what I'm very good at. Addiction. People with really bad personality disorders and things that a lot of people won't touch. Now, in addition to that, if you do have any of those issues, don't be afraid to seek out therapy, psychology, or any professional. I think that the idea that those things can be ignored are criminal, and if you need mental health help, get them. So that's what we're talking about in this video, about the evolution of masculinity out of trauma and healing and what happens. And this video is going to be really graphic. So keep your hats on. We're going to talk a lot about abuse. We're going to talk a lot about really screwed up stuff and getting out of this victim mentality and getting into strength. Let's do it. So there's a lot to talk about in this video, and there's many things which are uncomfortable for people to talk about in it, and I really want to get down into the nitty-gritty with it to paint some pictures. So number one, I've been coaching men for 15 years. I specialize in this. This is what I do. This is one of the things that I do best at. I literally make 70% of my income that's outside of Austin Men's Development, working with people who have major, major problems. This is addiction. These are people who are sociopaths. These are people who have major, major issues. And again, I do not replace a psychologist, therapist, psychiatrist, any of those things. I accent those things and work with those people, but I work hand in hand with them. So that being said, I want to go down the line of what a lot of us consider a reason to be a victim, and how the solution for that is getting out of that victimhood. So number one, at the age of 14, I became a through and through drug addict, chemically dependent to many different things. Now, that happened for many reasons, which I'll get into here in a second. I overdosed twice by the time I was 17, and since then, I've overdosed a bunch of times. From 17 to 20, I was clean, and then relapsed, and from 20 to basically 28, and then into 30. 28 to 30 was really a tough time for me in getting clean. A lot of different chemical dependency there stuff as well. Man, I used hardcore. I've done a lot of violent things, especially even when I was 14, 15 years old. There was a lot of really heavy stuff that was bad in my life. One of the reasons for that is because in my childhood, I've had emotional, mental, psychological, physical, and sexual abuse happen in my life. Now, these are things which could be really uncomfortable to talk about. They're really bad. And if I went into the details of them, they're pretty horrific and things that you wouldn't wish upon anybody. In my teens, and actually when I was clean and when I was 17, I got a girlfriend. I didn't have a girlfriend before. We had sex 3 or 4 times. And on the 4th time, or after the 4th time of having sex, we worked at a gas station together. I walked across the street after interacting with a couple individuals there, making sure that they were finding everything all right. Those individuals robbed that gas station, kidnapped my girlfriend, raped her, and took her to her house and continued to do it. It was really horrible, right? After that, we both got a bunch of STDs. After that, because when I was across the street and they were raping her in the gas station before they kidnapped her and continued to rape her for 5 hours longer and throw her out of a moving car after beating the living shit out of her or whatever other stuff, there was a cop who was across the street harassing me for smoking a cigarette because I was underage, or maybe I was 18 at the time, I don't know. But they were spending all this time searching me and shaking me down as we heard the car peel out of the gas station and the alarms go off saying it was robbed. The police officer ignored that. One of the benefits of that is that it showed that I was not involved in the case, because during that, the police detectives also, I didn't know how, we didn't have like IDTV back then or true crime shows or these things, but they psychologically broke me, convincing me that I had done this to see if I had really done it and all this stupid stuff. Well, it turns out that cop admitted that he was harassing me and not doing his job or whatever. You could argue that, in my opinion, not doing that. But more importantly, they messed up on the case so bad that those people were not prosecuted. Even though I had witnessed them, she had clearly witnessed them, they could not be prosecuted because of the poor job that they did with evidence and not doing anything right in the case. Later on, 16 years later, they were already in prison for a similar crime, and they did get tried for that particular crime because of new DNA evidence and so on. After that, a lot of stuff happened when I ended up relapsing after I was 20, and a lot of adult sexual assaults happened to myself, and just really bad stuff. That being said, as I grew up, I got clean. First off, I had kids when I was using, and it wasn't good, and their mom and I had a lot of problems together. She does come from a family where there is diagnosed borderline personality disorder, among other disorders, and a whole history of making false abuse claims to their neighbors and friends and family and whatever stuff, and it still kind of continues to this day. Hold on, I'm going to change this really quick. Let in a little bit more light. Not gonna happen, maybe. That being said, after I had 2 kids with her, we had a lot of problems, and she has some problems herself. I had clearly, either new in recovery at the time or using drugs, and all sorts of problems come into that. I eventually got many attempts at abuse charges against my kids over the course of 4 years. Didn't handle them in the right way, and I have a lot of media and product on that. But eventually I did get charged with child abuse in 2012. And in 2012, everything went to shit. There were many charges that she had attempted before, or different claims, different threats, calling up different people, and this time she apparently did it right, and I went to jail with that. I got my kids taken away. The court system fucked up big time. The court system messed up in some ways that were so pivotal that it's hard to imagine, but essentially at the same time she had a case going on for custody with another baby daddy. Since then, her life has stabled out a lot. I'm just telling you this story to tell you the story. She does great at being a mother, and we work together at a lot of different things. Both of us have changed in a lot of ways, which is another important key to this entire story. So that being said, when we get to this entire thing, here's how bad the court system messed up. Let me not skip this. Is a week after I was forced into a plea because the judge said, you got to stop delaying. We're either going to a trial or take this plea. The plea's good. You better plead. So I plead. I took a plea and took community service and probation for a couple of years, and then was able to get it wiped off my record. Now, later on, it did get absolved, whatever. Anyway, so the thing is a week after that, or maybe it was like 10 days after that, she actually had a trial for her other custody case, where in that case, there were the same lies being told, but they were proven wrong. So the same lies that she told about me, she told about the other baby daddy, and he proved them wrong, and her family was caught lying in court, and it's really crazy. So that's how bad the justice system fucked me. I got fucked. I grew up in a family where there was some abuse. My family's great, I love them, but there were certain things that seeped in that were bad. I eventually got into the life of addiction, did a lot of hardcore drugs, did a lot of hardcore violent stuff. A lot of my friends have done much worse and those types of things. I've had kidnappings and rapes, abductions. I've had assaults myself while using. I've had the shit beat out of me. I have a bunch of excuses on why I should fail at life, and a bunch of excuses why I might have certain psychological problems, whatever it might be, PTSD or different behaviors that might seem narcissistic myself, and so on. That was never an excuse for me. And let me tell you the solution of this, and this is why it's so important, and because I work directly with guys at a very effective rate. If you have a problem, if your wife is a narcissist, if you grew up being abused, if you grew up with whatever, my heart goes out to you. I want to talk to you about that. but I want to talk to you about it outside of the victim mentality. I want to know that it hurts and it sucks, but it is never an excuse to not work at it. There are solutions for this. There are free solutions for it that you should be a part of. I went to 12-step groups. I also went to other groups for the childhood trauma and so on that were free, that were to work with people who had been abused or had sex abuse and so on. I don't see you guys doing that. Now, my group that you pay for, there is that. We have those solutions, and it's made for that, and it works effectively. There's a reason why people pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally. There's a reason why people have signed a $2 million contract with me on working with them, because I can work with these people. And one of the fundamental things is that you have to be responsible for it. So what I want to ask you, if you do have a narcissistic woman, man, I did too. What is your part in it? Why did you choose that person? Yeah, I get it, they lied to you. They're really good at that. But why did you think that was okay? Why did you choose to step further when you could have walked away? Why did you say yes to the red flags? Instead of looking at them or blaming the alcoholic or blaming the narcissist or whatever, you need to look at yourself. And that is the only way that you will gain strength and clarity in this. And when you can do that, you gain great strength. But it's not strength that comes in the opposite of your pain, going, oh my God, I can be a superhero. I can grab onto the losers of the internet, life coaches who put this physical persona of themselves up. I can now be somebody that can feel, that can hurt, that can accept loss, and that I can stand on my own 2 feet and not compromise what I feel. It's not compromise my image of what I want to be. It's not compromise how I feel and share that to the world and be good. I'm telling you guys from experience, one, I've had a lot of things that are worse than yours. And my friends that I work with, that I go through this journey with, way worse than mine, man. Way more fucked up than anything that I've had in my life. Man, we do not accept blame. We do not focus on the other person. We might have to for a month or two of going through some sort of immediate trauma. We don't hold on to that. And if we don't do it in this way, if we don't accept responsibility, guess what? This isn't just a bad month or a bad 2 months, or maybe it's something that we have to go really deep in a bad 2 years. It is then a bad 10 years, a bad decade, repeated wrecked relationships involving things that are very important in your life, whether that's your wealth, your kids, and so on. So fix yourself. Things like Men's Development Excellence will fix you. Things like Men's Development Excellence works on this. This isn't some BS book that you read or some support group to shit talk your ex. This is something for you to get off your ass and fucking work. Because I see the other side of it too. Why do I know so many people that kill themselves, which is like 1 a week, overdose on drugs, or hurt somebody else and end up in jail for the rest of their life? Why? Because I work with these people and I see what happens when you do not accept responsibility for your life. Get the help you need, stop bitching. The answer is something I'm very well versed in, and let's get it. If not, man, I say this in a mean way, but I can predict how your life is going to turn out, because I've seen it literally thousands of times without exaggeration. And I'll see it again this week because it's sadly so common. And that is the hysteria that you should buy into. Not your ex, not the narcissism, not all this BS, but why men, like maybe yourself, and you have a choice to not be this way, fall into this trap all the time.